Now let's go back to our story on Israel-Palestine. Edmund Ghareeb joins us now. He's an academic and a Middle East expert. Edmund, thank you so much for your time. Now, the UN said that 2022 was the deadliest year for Palestinians since 2006, but 2023 is already on course to surpass that. What has led to this uptick in violence?
Well, I think there have been a number of reasons, the latest of which, of course, is the emergence of a government in Israel that's very radical, right-wing, has a number of very conservative, anti-Palestinian individuals, some of whom see the Palestinians as a threat, some who favor the expansion of settlements in the West Bank and taking a tough stand against the Palestinians. But I think in addition to that, there have been increasing tensions over the past year because many Palestinians have reached a point that they are being ignored by the international community. They have been under occupation since 1967. There were supposed to be two states, an Israeli state and a Palestinian state. Instead, we have seen Israel continue to build settlements in the West Bank, take control of resources, including water, and treating the Palestinians in a different way than they were treating the settlers. There were, like double standards when it came to that issue. Also,
you mentioned, sorry to interrupt, you mentioned the right-wing government was part to play, but the new government has only been in power for 1 month, and the increased raids and killings of Palestinians were a policy under Lapid's centrist government. What has, what happened in 2022 that made things shift? We can talk about the new government next, but I sort of want to understand how things changed in 2022.
Well, exactly. First of all, there have been a lot of tensions within the Palestinian community. There have been a lot of frustrations, regardless of what efforts they have made. As the Palestinian Authority have cooperated in security areas with the Israeli government, but the Israeli government has ignored actually the rights of Palestinians. They have arrested young children, they have destroyed homes, they have taken over more territory, the settlers have taken more land from the Palestinians, and there appeared to be no end in sight, that the idea of a Palestinian state was no longer viable because Israeli settlers have taken control of large areas of the West Bank, and that made the creation of a Palestinian state, a viable Palestinian state, something very, very difficult. And so as a result of that, we have seen increasing tensions. There have been also increasing factionalism within the Palestinian movement itself. There are differences between Hamas in Gaza and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. That has contributed to the situation.
So in addition, moving forward, the new Israeli government has already promoted greater focus, or prompted greater focus on whether the two-state solution is not just unlikely but impossible. What could that mean for Palestinians and also the geopolitical situation in the region at large?
That's a very good, excellent question, actually. Why? Because we have seen also, in addition to the fact that the international community has not been able to do much in dealing with the Israelis and trying to, for example, we saw sanctions on the Ukraine, we see sanctions on other countries for invading another country. We don't see anything like this on Israel. We don't see any pressure. We don't see any real effort by the international community. That's a factor. We have also seen some Arab countries establishing normal relations, normalization of relations, or what has been called the Abrahamic Accord. That has also contributed to the increasing frustration, increasing anger on the part of the Palestinians. The double standards, the fact that the Israeli government has also frozen the tens of millions of dollars that belonging to the Palestinian Authority, and because the Palestinian Authority threatened to go to the International Court of Justice. So there are a lot of issues that contributed to this. And on top of it came the election of a right-wing government, very radical right-wing government in Israel.
We're running out of time. I just wanted to ask you finally, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading over to the Middle East. And although it verbally, the US verbally supports a two-state solution to the conflict, but the Biden administration has been reluctant to criticize Israeli abuses against Palestinians. So what purpose do you think might Blinken serve, or who will Blinken serve?
Well, basically, Blinken, of course, he's been saying statements that, for example, the recent maneuvers which have taken place in the area, which included the Central Command of the United States, as well as the Israeli Armed Forces, said the U.S. stands behind Israel. It doesn't matter who are the personalities in the government. But there have been some criticisms of the personalities. So the administration finds itself under pressure also because it was hoping to get more Arab countries to support the Abrahamic Accords, the normalization of relations. But the events on the ground in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, are going to make it difficult. The United States is concerned about the Arab countries, Middle Islamic countries moving closer to the Russians, to the Israelis, instead of the U.S. because of the Palestinian situation, as well as other issues. And this is a matter of concern for Secretary Blinken, for the U.S. government. That's why we saw Jake Sullivan, the National Security Council, visit Israel, and also we saw the head of the CIA. So that is also another factor.
Okay, very complex issue. Edmund Ghareeb, thanks very much for your time, academic and Middle East expert.